Unfortunately, I have re-downloaded the app. I wake up, I'm swiping on the train, I'm swiping at lunch, I'm sitting on the toilet and I'm going through my options. I will say the options in the process is just as bad as I remember it to be, but by app, I don't mean Hinge. I am on Street Easy. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If we haven't met yet, my name is Sarah, and today I'm gonna bring you with me on 13 apartment tours in New York City. Before we get into the tours and just a couple tips, I'm going to just provide some context for what I was looking for. Also, this is not what my voice normally sounds like. I have been sick for the past like 3 weeks, and I wanted to wait until I was better to film this video, but I feel like at this rate, I'm just never gonna get to it. So thank you for bearing with me with my congested voice. Also, I have a guest. Apparently, this is Tulip, if you see her in the back. She looks really settled, so I think she's gonna be here for this video. This is my third move in New York City, and I basically moved every single year that I've been here. So it's not my first rodeo with the apartment hunt process, but it is still very stressful. My roommate is one of my best friends from childhood, and basically what we're looking for is a 2-bed minimum, maybe 3-bed that we can make into an office since we both are hybrid / work from home. We want a dishwasher for sure, pet friendly because she has a cat, preferably multiple trains that we could access, but I don't want to be walking more than 10 minutes. I think it sounds fine on paper, you're like, it's not that big of a deal, but if I had to do that every single day just to get somewhere, I would be less inclined to leave my apartment, and that's just like knowing the type of person I am. We really want to prioritize lighting. I feel like for both of us in our past apartments, it's definitely still affected us mentally and just like lifestyle wise. And then the other main thing is living room space, or space in general. Our rooms don't have to be so crazy, at least if it fits a full bed and a desk. Like, that's the bare minimum. If it's a little bit tight, like, that's okay, we'll make it work if the space in general is nice. Again, nothing like super crazy with the living room. We just want to be able to comfortably host minimum a couple people over and like make it feel like we have room to vibe in the apartment. Maybe think of it more so as just like a little bit of breathing room. And then washer dryer doesn't necessarily have to be in the unit, but at least in the building is preferred. I prefer an elevator, but I'm open to a walk up if it's like the perfect place, but maybe nothing more than like 3rd floor walk up. I think anything more than that, I would just like never leave the apartment again. Our budget is under $5,000. So I used to live in LIC and FiDi, and I feel like those areas don't have much walking access to things to do and eat. We kind of settled on Williamsburg or Hell's Kitchen because I feel like those places are relatively walkable and have like decent train access, definitely depending on where you are within those areas. And I feel like at least in Williamsburg, for the price, you get a little bit more compared to like other places in Manhattan. And we also wanted somewhere that was not too noisy because I think we are both a little bit sensitive to street noise and just sound, which also is kind of difficult in New York City, but this is kind of an overview of what we are looking for our apartment. So the first tip, if you're looking for an apartment in New York City, is the sweet spot to start looking, I would say, is about 6 to 4 weeks out. For example, if you're looking for a July lease, at the end of May, that's when they start kind of putting out more of those July apartments. Once it hits June, that's like when it starts peaking. In our case, I was traveling during our peak time, so my roommate and I would both try to find listings on Street Easy, and then she would go tour them. So by the time I got back and started touring more, it was probably like 2 to 3 weeks out from our target move-in date. The clock was ticking and we were getting nervous, but it all worked out. And then I'm pretty sure it was June 11th was when there legally cannot be a broker's fee, which is awesome, but I have heard that you should be careful depending on who the broker works for. They can still charge you a broker's fee, so just make sure that you don't sign anything that says that the broker is working for you. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that was all the context. I literally like made notes for all the different apartments that I'm gonna go through with the pros and cons and everything. Before I get into the apartments, just wanted to give a shout out to Ana Luisa. Since I partnered with them in my last video, I'm wearing the charm earrings right now, and these have been literally my everyday earrings. I love them so much. Check out the link in the description to shop some really affordable and super cute jewelry. Okay, let's get started, shall we? So the first one was in Williamsburg. I basically toured 6 apartments this day. So this one was $4,600. They were giving half a month free on a 12-month lease, so the net effective rent was $4,408. This was a 2-bed, 1-bath. It was only 7 minutes from the train, which is okay for us, and there was an elevator, so that was nice. I would say the pros of this place was that compared to a lot of units that I've seen on the larger side of average of living room space, the rooms themselves were, I think, kind of average space-wise, and then there was a dishwasher. I like the island on the kitchen. That is a nice touch. Other than that, the place wasn't that exciting to me. The views weren't that great. It's kind of facing another building. The lighting was okay in the rooms, and then obviously if you close the rooms, there's just no lighting in the living room, which kind of would have been okay. It's not a deal breaker per se, but we definitely would have preferred if there was some kind of lighting in the living room. And there wasn't a vent above the stove, which is a small detail that I look for, but it's also not a deal breaker. I will say the main thing about this that kind of was a deal breaker was that the immediate area to the apartment was a little bit sus. Like, I just didn't know if I would feel comfortable coming home at night, and I think that safety is probably like the #1 thing that I look for, so that was an immediate no. But they did have a rooftop, so brownie points for that. Moving on to the second one, also in Williamsburg. This one was $5,000. It was a 3-bed, 2-bath, which the 2-bath was surprising to me. It was a 3rd floor walk up, and it's a 12-minute walk from the train. So the 3-bed was nice because we would have made one of them an office room, and then 2-bath is extra perks because we each would have our own bathroom, and if we were to have the ideal apartment, we would have a 2-bath, but again, not a deal breaker. This one had laundry in building. It had decent lighting in the rooms, but one of the closets was like a half fake closet. It was so weird. And then the living room space was not the biggest. It kind of just felt like mainly a kitchen space, which I know a lot of apartments kind of are, but I just felt like it was gonna be a little bit tricky and awkward to configure the living room and the like dining area. What I didn't love about this apartment was that views were just like facing another building. There actually wasn't a dishwasher, which is a deal breaker that I actually just like accidentally didn't catch to begin with. And then you could kind of hear the noise on the street, especially for the price at $5K and it being a 12-minute walk and a walk up. It just kind of wasn't worth it. Okay, now this third one is interesting. So this one in Williamsburg is 4350. It's a 2-bed, 1-bath, and it is a 2nd floor walk up, so it's not bad. It is a 10-minute walk from the train. It's a nice living room space. The lighting is okay and the views are all right. I will say the rooms were so small. In my brain, I almost couldn't even picture having a full bed and a desk in there. Like, I think maybe it could have worked, but it would have literally been so tight. But they did have a dishwasher, and the main draw of this unit is that it's part of this compound where they turned an old school and church into a couple different units for this apartment complex. And so they had really great amenities. They had a gym, laundry room, bike room, like a courtyard and garden and like lounge and everything. That was like a huge draw, but I think ultimately the rooms were a little bit too small and the lighting also wasn't like the best, so we decided not to go with this one. But the 4th apartment that I saw was in a different location but still in Williamsburg. It's by the same like rental company, so it's the same concept where they turn like a school and church into these apartment buildings. So this one is 4,600. Also 2-bed, 1-bath. It's a 3rd floor walk up, but it didn't feel bad. This one, however, was a 14-minute walk from the train, so that kind of was a deal breaker for us. As you can see, the lighting is amazing. They had exposed brick, and the building in general was really cute and it had a lot of character. It was pretty quiet, which was nice. It does have a dishwasher. There was laundry in the building. It also came with a rooftop with basically the whole view of Manhattan, which was really nice. But they also had like amenities like a gym and a lounge and everything. And so we really didn't go with this, mostly because of that 14-minute walk, and also because the rooms were just slightly bigger than the last place, but still a bit too small. This is so funny, but I did double check about the stove and having a vent over it. And when I asked about it, she was like, oh yeah, it's like in the ceiling. The ceilings are pretty tall too, which I love, but the vent was literally just like completely in the ceiling, like way above the stove. Okay, and at this point I took a break and I went to Winsome Bakery to grab a bite because I was running around all morning, and at this point it was like 3. I was so hungry, so I grabbed a bite to eat. The mochi donut is so good. Oh my god, I'm like still thinking about it. Anyways, moving on to our 5th apartment. Guys, I was so excited about this. Like, okay, let's get into it. So this is in Williamsburg. Honestly, this place was a little bit sus. And to this day, I'm still a little bit sussed out, but let me get into it. So it was listed on Street Easy as 4199. It's a 2-bed, 1-bath. It has an elevator. Depending on what trains you're coming from, it's a 4 to 14 minute walk, so not bad. Immediately once I stepped in, I was like, the lighting is so good. This is on the top floor. It's almost like a 3-bed, but the middle portion is like a living room, and I love that little alcove because it just feels a little bit more separate. The common space like in the kitchen area is also so large, like you could do so much with that. It has honestly pretty good views, and this location was relatively close to like Graham Avenue in Williamsburg, where like a lot of the main stores and food and stuff is. So it would have been like pretty good location to just like bop around. This building complex also had pretty good amenities. There was a gym, laundry and building, and a rooftop as well. But the cons were that when I first got off the elevator into the hallway on that top floor, it smelled like trash. Like it was actually kind of gross. And also right when I stepped into the apartment, I heard sirens. It was only slightly muffled. Like obviously it wasn't like I was just standing on the street hearing the sirens, but it was only like a smidge quieter than that. So I was kind of surprised that like we were still so high and we could still hear it so much. So honestly, I wasn't sure what living there would be like. And then the immediate area outside the apartment, I would say it was a little sus, but it wasn't like it was unsafe. And it was so close to the train that it would have been fine, I feel like. But that was just something to note. And then the rooms themselves were slightly tiny. Like I think we would have made it work, but it definitely would have been a little bit of a tight squeeze. But despite all that, because of the lighting in the gray common area space and a couple of the amenities that we liked and the views, we ended up applying for this one. We applied like day of, and they didn't tell us that there was another applicant before us, and so we ended up not getting it. And then they told us that there was another unit in the building that they had available, and so we looked at the videos of that. Honestly, we were like, we love this building and location so much that we're just gonna put in the application and then go tour it the next day. But then we realized that the video that they sent us was a video of a different unit than they were saying, and so we got really confused. So it's just kind of like sus vibes all around. And then like eventually they just ghosted us completely. And while I was talking to one broker, another broker kept emailing me asking me if a tour had already been set up, and at this point we had already applied. So I was like, what is going on? And then after that initial broker ghosted us, this other guy keeps emailing me asking if I got a tour. And this place on Street Easy was still up for so long, even though they told us that somebody had already rented it. And they kept just like asking me for more information and like if I was interested in any of the other units that they were showing. And when I went back on Street Easy and saw that it was finally rented, because before it said 4199, now it said 5200. So I feel like it was too good to be true. Also, the night after we applied, I had this dream that I was in the top floor of this building and there was like the tsunami, and I just like see the waves crashing in and the land just like crumbling, and I remember trying to escape from being on the top floor, and it was just a struggle. So that was probably a bad omen for the place. And even though my roommate and I really wanted this place, I think that was a sign, and we take all the signs. So I'm glad we're not there, and I'm glad that it ended up working out. Okay, sorry, long story long. Moving on to the next place. This is the 6th apartment that we toured. This one was in Hell's Kitchen, and it was $4,650. It was 2-bed, 1-bath, but guys, oh my god. It was a 5th floor walk up, and they were steep stairs, like steep and narrow. Holy crap. After the 3rd floor, I was like looking back at my roommate and I was like, I don't know if I can go up anymore. And it was a 10-minute walk from the trains, which is like, okay, that's our max. When we got inside, the hallways were literally like this big. Like you could barely fit through it. It was just the most absurd thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like I've never seen an apartment complex like this. And I pretty much immediately, we were just like, this ain't the one. Like I don't want to be doing this every day. And then when we got into the apartment, kind of the same thing. It was really small, terrible lighting. Actually, the room in the back was insanely small. Like I think maybe it would fit a twin and like nothing else. Like it was actually so tiny. The kitchen was tiny. It even had like a mini dishwasher that I've never seen before. The fridge was small. Just like everything was kind of the same vibe of small. The only like real pro about this place was that it had a washer dryer in unit. Okay, so that was the end of the first day of the apartments that I went to. And then my roommate and I, we went to go sit down, get some boba and debrief because it was also really hot and I was like so thirsty at this point. And we just kind of like talked over what we saw today, and that's when we decided to apply for that 5th apartment that we saw. And yeah, honestly, it was my first time seeing her in a long time since I had been gone for travel for like 2-3 weeks, so it was nice to just like catch up in general. Okay, on to the next segment of apartment tours. On this day, we actually saw a lot of apartments that I didn't film because our broker was just showing us like a bunch of different units that he had available, and I like did not want to film all of them because eventually they all started looking the same because they all were owned by the same management company. This is the 7th apartment in this video. It is in Williamsburg. It's $4,400, 2-bed, 1-bath. It did have an elevator, so that was nice, but it was an 11-minute walk from a train. This one kind of was just like pretty small overall. I like the backslash in the kitchen. The lighting was okay in the rooms, but obviously no lighting in the living room. The thing is, it was small and also kind of awkward of a layout because something about the kitchen being so narrow and just like a long strip, like the feng shui of it just like was not good. My camera just died because it overheated, so I kind of forget where I was, but basically this apartment was a no-go. Just too small and awkward. On to the next. Now this apartment was $5,000, 2-bed, 1-bath, and I forget if there was an elevator or not. It was a 4 to 7 minute walk to the trains. The kitchen and the living room was really dark, but the lighting in the rooms were phenomenal. I think the rooms were decent size too, so that was great. Because it was kind of like a U shape in the common room, it felt like it had more space and there was a little bit more that you could do, and it had a little bit of breathing room. The only thing, and I don't think I showed this in the video very well, but they also didn't have like the electricity on in the unit, so I couldn't like turn on the lights to show you guys. But the sink was right next to the door, and I just didn't love the idea of like one of us cooking or just like being at the sink and then the other person coming home and like smacking the door into you. I think that would just give me so much anxiety every single time I'm like going to the sink to wash my hands or like dishes or anything. That, and the fact that it was literally so dark when you like first opened the apartment, that something about that I just like really did not love. But I can't deny the lighting in the rooms. That's really, really nice. So the next one this broker showed us was also in Williamsburg. It was listed at $4,750 with an effective rent of $4,354. That's 1 month free on a 12-month lease. It's 2-bed, 1-bath, and it had an elevator, and this one was an 11-minute walk to a train. This one had a dishwasher and laundry in building. It also had a gym and a work lounge, but it was right by the highway and you could definitely hear the cars. The rooms were also a little bit small, and honestly, one of the other big kickers was that the common space was just so awkward. Like, I literally stood there for so long trying to picture how I would even lay things out, like where the couch and TV and like dining table would go. I think I would have to do like mental gymnastics just to figure it out. But that, in combination with everything else, especially the highway noise, was definitely a no-go. And then at this point, we were on our way to meet my roommate because she toured another place at this time, and we got caught in our second flash flood of the day. So we made a pit stop into this restaurant and got some pierogies, and it was actually so good. So I'm glad we came. But while we waited for the rain to die down, my roommate came over to us and kind of debriefed about some stuff. The next day we saw 3 more apartments together, so this brings us to the last leg of the apartment tour. So this is the 10th one that I'll show in this video, and this one is in Williamsburg. It was $4,500, 3-bed, 1-bath. It was a 3rd floor walk up. It didn't feel too bad. It was about a 10-minute walk from the train. First impression of this place, it is so large. Like, we definitely would have an office space because of the 3 beds. It was decent lighting. The common space was so big, which was really nice. The cons of this was that the walk up was kind of steep. I did not feel confident that I would enjoy like living here just because of the stairs, to be honest. Like, they were actually uncomfortable for me. And then I think mostly it was the location of where it was. It was kind of far from train and a little bit further from like the bustling areas of Williamsburg, and I just feel like because we wanted to live there, we wanted to be within a comfortable walking distance to things to do. But if it's kind of far from things to do and the train, I feel like that just kind of doesn't make sense for what we're looking for. So we passed on that one. But I do agree, like, the space and the lighting lighting is definitely something that is a little bit more rare in New York to find. I will give that unit props for that. The 11th place that we went to was in East Williamsburg. This one had a really cool skylight, which I loved. This was $4,699 with net effective rent being $4,503. It was half a month free on a 12-month lease. 2 bed, 1 bath. It was a walk up and it was about a 7-minute walk from the train. What you see is pretty much what you get. It was pretty small. Didn't love the surrounding area of the apartment, and the living room was tiny. Like it practically was non-existent, even though the skylight was super cute. So this one was a definite no as well. Now this 12th one, okay, this one was interesting. So this was in Williamsburg. It was $4,600, 2 bed, 2 bath, which was really nice. It was a 3rd floor walk up, but it didn't feel too bad. But it was a 15-minute walk to a train. Honestly, the area that it was in was also not the best, also just like not close to things that we would want to do. But the draw of this place was that it was so modern. We loved the exposed brick. The lighting was great. The size was like pretty decent. It was a 2 bath, so that was nice. And then they also had a gym. Even besides the cons, we couldn't apply because this place was actually already rented. So just more signs and redirections for us. Basically, after seeing that, we were so discouraged because at this point we had seen so many apartments and like applied to one, didn't work out. After that last tour, I was trying to go home. I was saying it was about an hour on train, and it would have been like 2 transfers or like a 15-minute drive. It was also really hot, and so I decided to just take a Lyft home. And on my ride, I was just thinking about like basically later that day we had another tour in the evening that I was gonna go back for, but I was thinking about it and I was kind of dreading going back because that would have been another 2-hour commute round trip. And the fact that I was just like thinking about this made me realize that I don't think I want to even like live there. And then I was thinking if I wanted to live in Williamsburg in general. I think even if I'm on the L or G train, it's still gonna be another transfer, but I think those trains get so crowded sometimes too during the day and like during the weekend, that's gonna be a little bit uncomfortable. And like I know I have the privilege to even like be picky about this, but it's still valid. Yeah, so we're kind of getting stressed out and we ended up expanding our options to a couple other neighborhoods. And then I literally was home. My roommate was like, I have an apartment tour for this place at 4, and I had just finished up a call and I was like, okay, I'll see you there. We toured this place. This was a 2 bed, 1.5 bath. It had an elevator and it was like a 6-minute walk to the train, which is perfect. Like literally one of the first things is just, okay, the lighting is amazing. We were a little bit worried because it was right by the train, but the building was so well insulated that we could barely hear the train at all, which was great. The kitchen was nice. Love that there was an extra little island, so there's just more space to cook. And it was kind of separate from the living room, which is nice. There were 2 balconies. The view was pretty good. We had a view of Manhattan. This place had amazing amenities, like the best amenities that I've seen on all of the tours, and unfortunately I didn't record any of it, but it had a gym, several lounges, a kids room, 2 game rooms, laundry, a really large rooftop with like 4 or 5 grills on it. And literally like the only con was that the living room was a little bit small, but at this point that's like not even a deal breaker at all. And so we ended up applying for this one. We applied on a Friday and we got it on Monday and filled out all the paperwork and everything. And so we are moving really soon, which I'm so excited about. And I will definitely be taking you along with me on my apartment decorating and furnishing journey, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, moral of the story, take the signs and everything will be okay. That is all for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I always love watching apartment tour videos and just seeing the layout of different places. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and leave a nice comment. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye! And then you finally delete the app and you're just like, I really hope I never have to download this app ever again.